I want to talk a little bit today about how I come up with ideas, how I research those ideas and things like that, which is different clearly for a fiction writer than for other kinds of writing. But I want to start off first by giving a little background. I grew up in Massachusetts. I sort of always wanted to be a writer. That's the question I get. How did you become a writer? How long have you known you wanted to do it? And I was making up stories when I was very small, and it's kind of the only thing kind of the only job I've ever really wanted to do. So I feel very lucky that it's turned out that that meant to do it as a job. I went to college in Connecticut and moved to D.C. shortly after that. I worked in a bookstore for 3 years, which I thought would be very kind of like literary while working on my writing, but it's a retail job, and as such was not that particularly interesting. But it kind of did give me some insight into the kind of other side of books besides the creative side, which is what sells, what's on the market, what's being put out there, how it's being marketed, that kind of thing, which turns out to be more important than I think a lot of writers realize when they're sitting down to write. And then I did come to American University and I got an MFA in creative writing, and I loved that. It was a really great thing for me for a couple of reasons. One is that it allowed me to meet other people who are focusing on writing and to sort of be part of this writers community kind of thing. And the other is that it gave me two really important things, I think, for any kind of writing, which were deadlines and feedback. I find that I'm much better at getting my work done when there's someone who's waiting for a copy of it a week Tuesday or whatever it is. I'm a great procrastinator if I'm just on my own, and so it was a very productive time for me to be in this program where I had to be turning stuff in on a regular basis. And the feedback, I think probably, sure for any kind of writing, one of the most difficult tasks is figuring out how to revise and edit your work. And when you're sitting alone just doing your writing, you lose perspective and you kind of lose sight of, is this any good? What, am I getting my point across, that kind of thing. And so it's really very useful to have other people look at your work for that reason. And the other difficult part is figuring out which criticisms and suggestions to take and which not to take, because you'll have the same person, you'll have the same chapter or whatever read by several different people, and one person will love something about it and the other will hate something about it. And so you kind of have to develop a sense of how to revise your work in a way that is true to whatever your vision of it is, but not being, not holding on too tightly to your favorite things about it because maybe they're not working. You have to kind of be open to hearing criticism about your work, but know you're going to take some of it and not other parts of it. So for me, going to graduate school for creative writing is certainly, not something that you have to do to become a novelist, but for me I found it very useful. After I finished, I began work on my first book, The Dogs of Babel. It took me about 2.5 years to write it. I finished it, again with deadlines, I finished it about maybe 18 hours before my first child was born. So that was really, kind of a useful deadline for me. And I was actually pregnant while writing my second book also. So now that I'm writing my third, it's the first time I haven't had that particular deadline. And I'm not planning to have another baby just so I have it, but it's been I haven't had that kind of built-in pressure. After I finished the book, I looked for an agent. The way it works with novels, especially first novels, is you have to have the whole thing written. With nonfiction work, you can write a book proposal and try to sell a book based on that. But with fiction, they have to, be able to see that you're going to be able to pull it off, get to the end and have it all work and be satisfying. So once I was finished with the book, I looked for an agent, and after I found an agent, he sold it to a publisher, which was